Right now, we currently have no affirmative requirement for green space. It's mostly what's left over, because right now we tell you how big you can build your house and how much of the remaining area you cover with like a parking pad or anything like that. Something that would be more of an affirmative requirement would be a green area ratio, which specifies, hey, you have to have X number of square feet of green space on your property. And there is an explainer that we put together with some help from the folks who worked on the green area ratio for Washington, D.C., and also a number of specific examples from the DC code in the little explainer we put together, which I'll run through here shortly. And this is something that we kind of included in the explainer, so I will quickly jump through that. That makes me a lot less. What the DC version does is functionally it provides a menu of choices that developers can look at, and they can decide, well, I only have a 200 square feet and I can't really provide the 400 square feet I'm supposed to provide, but if I provide something that's a higher quality or better green space used on the site, I can bump up my 200 square feet to actually count for 400 square feet. And it's up to the developer to show, hey, I can meet it through planting X number more trees, or I can provide deeper soil that will let stuff thrive for much longer before any intervention is required. And most of the time that's in the function of a multiplier, which adds to their score so for them to reach the required square footage area on a piece of property. And the way that works is you can incentivize certain things by having a higher score for things you really want to see. So like preserving upper story, upper canopy trees can have a really high multiplier, because you're like, we want to keep these, we want to make sure that folks are encouraged to maintain these wherever possible. But if somebody just wants to grade out a lot and put down some dirt, that provides a very low score because it's not the highest quality of green area provided. And then we did get a question from the commission asking us to compare the lot area requirements and changes for other cities. Best example we found that's comparable is Philadelphia's code, and the most comparable areas for us are R6 zoning, compares nicely with RSA4 from Philadelphia, both of which permit attached residential dwellings. Philadelphia has a minimum lot width requirement, which we currently don't have, but it also has a minimum lot area of 16,200 square feet. Currently we require 1,500 square feet for an attached residential dwelling, but Philadelphia allows a smaller minimum front yard of 15 feet, where we currently require 20, or the average of the block. Philadelphia requires a 1 foot minimum side yard if applicable. We currently don't require any. We have the same minimum rear yard standards. However, they allow 50% coverage of attached residential structures on a piece of property, whereas we currently only allow 35. And they allow a maximum height of 38 feet, where we only require 35. More directly applicable in the R7 districts, where we're going to see the greatest impact of these changes, is RSA-5 in Philadelphia. It does not allow fully attached residential. However, it allows substantially more density than current Baltimore City standards for attached residential. Philadelphia allows a minimum lot area of 960 square feet for semi-detached structures, where in Baltimore we require a minimum lot area of 2,000 square feet for semi-detached. And even for attached residential structures, we require 1,100 square feet compared to that 960. Philadelphia allows for
960 feet of lot area for a detached,
semi-detached.
Semi-detached.
So hooked up on the
That
side.
makes, okay.
And then comparing that to Baltimore's minimum lot area standard is less than half, so you're basically twice as dense. There's a minimum front yard requirement of 8 feet, Baltimore requires 20 feet or 10 feet, depending on whether you're detached or a row home. There's a minimum side yard requirement of 8 feet in Philadelphia, where we currently require 10, and then 15 or 0, depending on what's applicable. Minimum rear yard of 9 feet, and then here we require a minimum of 25, and then they allow a max occupied area of 75 to 80%, where we only allow 35 for semi-detached and 50 for attached in residential in R7 district. And then they have the same maximum height of 38 feet versus our 35 feet.
How do they address impervious areas?
They do it similarly to how we do it currently, with the building being separate and then the impervious area. So there's already a smaller fraction that Philadelphia requires. And I think that's actually a perfect way to open up for questions. We do know there is a second clerical error that we have language regarding the amendment of, but it's just not listed on this slide. It's in table 8-401, I believe.
So, I'm sorry, this is the first of two clerical errors? You have, or this is the second one? I'm sorry.
This is the first one we brought up in the first meeting. The second one is not listed on here. It got brought up after the last meeting, waiting members of the public.
Will you tell us what it is?
It is, yep, sure. Somewhere in here. There it is, R2 for detached dwellings.
Yeah.
It says 5 feet 10, so it would be 5 foot 10 inches as opposed to 5 feet. Yeah, 10 is extraneous.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we appreciate folks catching that.
So a couple things quickly, threshold. One, just want to go back to clarify for folks who are listening to this. I think I want to tweak a little bit your comment about the variance standard. I understand what you're trying to say, but I want to be clear. Deputy Mayor can check me on this because I know he's a zoning aficionado. It is true, certainly, that if you change the law in this fashion, you would not have to go to the zoning board for things that today you have to go to the zoning board for. And I think you described it as sort of the higher threshold to go to the zoning board. I think that's probably a fair way of saying it. But I think you also said something that implied that somehow the standard was changing. And I don't. It's okay. I just want to be clear more for the record. It was not a big deal, but I just want to be clear. The standard for a variance is the standard for variance. It's just simply a question of when do you need a variance, and you have to go higher before you, not higher, but denser, I guess, before you reach that. So first thing. Second, I really appreciate the green area ratio work. I think it's really worth discussing. I think it's probably too much for us to pack into this discussion, but I think we had asked about it because you and the director at the last meeting mentioned that some work was being done. So I think it's worth talking about that and seeing if that's something we might want to add as an augmentation. And then I don't want to, the vice chair did a much better job than I will at the last meeting regarding this whole question about green space. That slide with those numbers, 18 million, 27 million, like it's a good math exercise, but at the end of the day, I'm not really sure what it teaches you in terms of, because you're it's over so many parcels, et cetera, et cetera. And then I do think, and this was really the point that you made at the last meeting, I think, green space is green space. Little postage stamp of green space in the backyard is not green space. It's an amenity for the homeowner. And I think at one point you said something about it could make it less desirable. And I guess my view of that is then people won't buy them. But that doesn't, that's, someone has to figure out whether the choice between something that's a little bit bigger, a little less, a little bit more dense, et cetera, and maybe a little less green space, at some point someone has to strike that balance. But I don't think it's fair for us to sort of say, is that more or less desirable? So those are just my couple of comments, but thank you. It's a very good presentation. It's complicated stuff, so for condensing it. So those are my couple of just comments quickly. Are there questions for Mr. Canoy from the commission? Okay.
I'm sorry, I have one.
Go right ahead.
Because of all of the talk about green space and storm mitigation, has our sustainability commission, had an opinion on this?
The commission in official capacity, no, but we've been working with our sustainability staff to put this all together. Big shout out to them for helping point me in the right direction on this, and for the director for helping point me to a good example of what to look for different things.
Great, thank you.
Other questions for staff? Okay. Are there folks here who wish to be heard on the bill one way or the other? Just a moment, I'll get to you, I promise. Is there, as well,
Yeah, okay, so we have on the site, number of written, letters, including letters of both opposition and support that have been submitted since the last, meeting, and they're indicated as such. So please, I want to note that those are in the record, and now we'll hear from folks who want to testify. Are the folks, ma'am, are you testifying in support?
Yes, sir.
And
Opposed.
Opposed, and ma'am?
Opposed.
Opposed. Well, let's hear from this lady first, and then please again identify yourself.
Yes, of course, thank you. Good evening, again, for the record, my name is Emily Helvermail, and I'm the Director of External Affairs at the Baltimore Regional Housing Partnership. I'll keep this really brief and just refer you to our written comments, but I'm here today to express support for the council bill, excuse me, I'm sorry, pardon me, 250064. Excuse me. By adjusting bulk and yard requirements, the bill would support development by creating more buildable space, allowing for more flexible use of residential lots, and help increase the overall housing supply. For the families we serve, this bill is a chance for more access to safe, stable, and affordable homes and communities where they can thrive. And with that, I would urge your support for the legislation as a practical step toward more equitable development and giving families more options for where and how they live. If you wouldn't mind terribly, just because of the time and I do need to leave, I just wanted to state for the record also my support, our support for 250065. I know you asked not to condense the bills into one thing. We have submitted support for that legislation as well. I won't explain all of the details, you can refer to them.
do you submit that on the record?
Absolutely.
Fine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for, any questions? Sorry, no questions, thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sticking it out,
Of
we really
course.
appreciate it.